is racism against Northeast Indians rooted in India's history. Racism against Northeast Indians is not about individual prejudice today. To understand it, we must look into the long historical and political structures of India, not just isolated events or recent events. First of all, racism is the belief that certain individual or groups of people are superior to other groups or individual on the basis of caste, race, origin, culture, history, and so forth. What we see today in India is not new racism, but it is born of or embedded into historical structure of India. The so-called Northeast Indian region, or administered as the hill areas, was categorized as excluded and partially excluded areas under colonial administration. Scholars such as Duncan McDougall argues that discrimination against Indian Northeast dates back to the time when colonial administration labeled the region primitive and unsuitable for living due to its mysterious ecology and esoteric diseases. He also further notes that the disconnect between the area and mainland India worsened after independence when the Indian state constructed the category of Northeast in order to govern and control the region. So this construction of Northeast as a homogenized region makes way for stereotyping the whole region into a homogenized version of racial category. So all these racial assumptions are embedded into the political structure, as we can see in the 1949 Constituent Assembly debates on the sixth schedule. The debate itself shows racialized version of Northeast Indian population. Members like Brajetwar Prasad was of the view that granting autonomy through sixth schedule to hill areas will cause more ethnic consciousness. Very interestingly, Avi Thakur argues that autonomy through sixth schedule should be given to the hill people, not because he wants the hill people to have access to power, autonomy, and so forth, but he believes it is important to give this autonomy so that the population can be assimilated into the larger mainstream India and then change the constitution later on. Evidently, all these arguments frame Northeast communities as population to be governed and controlled rather than equal partners in nation building and nation making. Interestingly, the geopolitical nature of or relationship of India to their neighboring countries also shape the ways in which racial profiling and racial structures are being attributed to the northeast of India. For example, McDougall argues that the cartographic anxieties and geopolitical relationship of China with India intensified discrimination against Northeast India and disconnect them further from the rest of India. Examples such as the 1962 Sino-Indian War heavily impacted Arunachal Pradesh. People from Arunachal Pradesh had to migrate to the cities where they faced suspicion because their racial structure has been identified as being Chinese. Then comes the economic liberalization in 1991, where migration from the Northeast to mainland Indian or urban settings was very popular. However, urban migration also exported Northeast Indians to racial profiling, slurs, and violence. As you can see, the different cases such as Dana Sangma and Richard Loitam in 2012 and the 2014 killing of Nito Tanya in Delhi, which brought attention to the issue finally at the national level. In addition to reported and unreported events of racism during COVID-19 against Northeast Indians, racism against Northeast Indians are not accidental, but it's embedded in the structure.